Hello, Penny.
Hello. Ray is here. He's
Hey,
just
Mitch.
over there.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
He likes to be in a comfortable chair.
Well, if he snores,
I'll hit him.
give him I gotta tell
And
my,
we'll be muted, so that'll work too. And I'm trying to keep the dog at bay. Oh, that's not working. Okay. Okay, come on, lay down. That's a good girl. That's a good girl, yes. Okay, okay. Oh, I needed to get stuff to make the room smell
What you need
okay.
to do?
I was gonna get the stuff, the odor eater. Take care of the dog.
is that the same kind of dog as Pam Saplicki?
A bigger version. She's a golden retriever and standard poodle, the big poodle.
Yeah,
And Pam's is a golden retriever and a toy, the small miniature poodle.
it doesn't look miniature in the pictures.
Well, it's about half her size.
Yeah, well, your dog's about the size of our daughter-in-law has I think her dog is the same size as yours.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I'd like to think a golden retriever should have a good sized partner.
Mhm.
And the poodle is usually the daddy and the golden retriever is the mommy, because golden retrievers can have like 8 or 10 puppies. They're very productive.
Oh,
So,
that doesn't bring out any genetic recessive traits, does it?
well, the whole idea with the hybrid, this deal, and I'm afraid it's getting lost, as is always the case, is to always have F1 crosses, a purebred of one breed and a purebred of another, and then not cross the puppies.
Mhm.
Or so that's how you get rid of the diseases and the malfunctions and stuff, because you're never reading them in. You're always
Yeah.
going back to the original. But I know more than one person who says, yeah, we got puppies and they were doodle parents. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
no, that's not the idea. But that's what happens when people play genetic games with animals. Hi, Mary. We're just talking
Hi.
about the dog that knows whenever I turn the computer on. I don't know how she knows. She was just completely asleep. In the minute, maybe she hears odd voices or something, and she's got to come and sing.
I've heard
Okay,
that it is the light from the screens
oh, maybe that's it too.
is not, and well, the place I was reading it was that you really shouldn't go to bed with your tablet because it makes you stay awake.
Yeah, it's something about the blue light or something, and you're supposed to
Yeah,
fall asleep
yeah.
under red light. Well, I don't think you should
Something
sleep with your tablet anyway, because it's going to end up on the floor probably.
Hi, Danita. So Dave Etris sent his apologies. He's not home at the moment.
Oh, well, he's going to be staying with us, I think, starting Friday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he comes for the what's it called?
The tag sale.
Yeah, the humongous tag sale or the huge tag sale.
To me, that's a glutton for punishment, but to drive 8 hours and stay a week to do the tag sale, unbelievable. But
Everybody
bless
has
him.
their own. Everybody has their own kind of fellowship.
Yeah. I don't get it, but that's okay. I'm glad he does. And we're
Well-
looking forward to having him here.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Hi.
Hello, Helen. How are you?
Hi, pretty good.
So we'll wait on Carol and Dale.
Well, I'll just put this out here at this time, and that is there is a cat that needs a home.
Needs a home.
I
I've
saw
been-
Helen cover her face.
It seems like I am hearing, I had to put my cat down. She had a tumor. And it seems like I'm hearing that every single day.
Well, you heard it at church last Sunday, yesterday. That's where I heard it was
Yeah.
at St. Mark,
This is Joe Glover's cat.
right, Joe Glover's cat.
Yeah, I went and I met her and you know, I'm just not ready yet. I'm just not ready for a new kitty.
Well, I don't want a pet.
Well, we have enough with the dog. We can't, we don't do cats. We just do
Right,
the
right.
dog.
Well, this cat apparently needs to have a home where it is the only pet.
Well, okay. Then
Yeah,
that
'cause
lets
there's
us
no
off the hook.
idea that there's no idea how the cat will react to even other cats or a dog. Because this cat has been an only cat all its life.
How old is it?
6. And the family is willing to pay for the first vet check. Now, how much they're gonna put up for that, I have no idea. I think the cat has already been spayed, but maybe the shots haven't been kept up because it's strictly an indoor cat. So maybe they didn't keep up with the immunizations and such. But according to the person that took me to meet the cat, once she gets used to you, she warms up to you and, you know, will come and sit with you and purr for you and be very sweet. I'm just not ready yet for another pet.
I need to know if it will sleep on your head like a cat hat. Not my
Um,
favorite thing.
Well,
I'm not, I don't know.
it's declawed, so that would put,
Ooh,
Yeah.
so
you're
that.
making me more interested.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Well, we know, Helen knows who to put you in touch with.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Declawed.
Sounds
No,
like a
no
match.
damage to my leather furniture.
They still got teeth.
Yeah,
I know, but they're not that diligent, really. Cats are essentially lazy.
Well, that's true.
well, I don't know about that. I had 4 cats and, well, 3 of them I had since they were itty bitty kittens. And I said, I'm gonna preserve my furniture. I'm gonna get them all declawed. Well, one of them turned out as he grew to be 19 pounds. And
Whoa.
whenever he would jump down, his paws or his toes would split right where they had been declawed because of his weight and that force of striking the floor or whatever. So that was a problem. Then his sister was also declawed, but her claws grew back. So best
Oh,
laid plans.
man.
And
That's like a
the one that it
miracle.
worked on was my little bitty cat who, you know, soaking wet with her winter blubber on was like 8 pounds. And she's the only one that it worked on. And she was a scrapper. She got into more trouble and I was sorry I had her declawed. I have no idea how she got hurt sometimes, but yeah, I was sorry I declawed her. I would never do it to a cat again. Never, never. I'd live with their claws.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hi, Dale.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Dale. Hi, Carol.
Hello.
How's
And,
good?
I'd like
So,
to
I
I'd like
think,
say hello to Kaylee over here. I think it's
Yes.
Kaylee's first.
Kaylee has to be part of the group.
Oh, is that Kaylee, the doggie?
Yep, that's the dog.
Good dog. Yeah, I
Yeah,
called a
she's,
friend.
talk about somebody who wants to be part of the group. She has to
Yeah.
be in the middle of everything.
oh,
Last night I called a friend who had lost a kitten, well, her cat, but she said she wouldn't take one on. So I don't have any other people that I know that would take a cat, but I tried. all I could do.
So, okay, so we are starting on a new adventure here, and I think
Yeah.
we start, going to share a cartoon, which I think summarizes, so everybody should see the cartoon now, right?
May have them. Yeah, yeah, isn't that the truth?
So this, I think, summarizes quite nicely we're going to be talking about for the next number of months. That basically we're looking at the same book. We're going to again focus on the Jewish Hebrew Bible, but we're going to see how different the different groups, Christians and modern Judaism. This is distinct from the ancient Israelite religion. Have what they have done with, as it says, how they highlighted different passages. So I think this is a good.
I've got to turn up my volume. I'll be right back. You may have to let me in again.
Oh,
Matt.
okay. Let me stop the share. Okay. I mentioned before we started, Dave Etris is not at home, so he won't be joining us, but he will be physically among us in a few days.
Okay.
It's true. I guess he could do the class with me
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
Monday, next Monday.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Well,
If
they
if
keep
he
them
gets
working
home
pretty.
in time,
Yeah, I was gonna say, they keep them pretty well late at the
yeah.
take
We
sale.
told him we would rewarm his dinner, but we're not waiting till 8 or 9 o'clock at
Oh.
night to eat dinner, sorry.
Is Suzette coming?
No, Suzanne's not coming. I think for two reasons. One, she's helping out with a craft fair
Oh,
and felt that that was a higher priority. And second, last year when they came and stayed the whole week, she had a real problem with, after 3 or 4 days of dealing with the dust mold, whatever. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
giving her a lot of respiratory issues.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that kind of was part of her decision too. That
Okay.
it's all right for a couple of hours or a day, but when you do it 5 days in a row, I don't know how the Wusthoffs do it.
I
Some
don't
people
either.
must be immune.
It bothers some people and it doesn't bother others. I mean, I had friends who were historians that had that problem, and it made it a real problem for them working in archives, which,
Yeah, geez.
so, or some of them went into other lines of work. So anyways, so I did send out the notes. Did anybody not get them? They were attached to the couple of emails I sent.
It was interesting.
Notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I also sent out the, we won't be using it for a few weeks, but the Justin Martyr book. So you don't need to pay for that either. As we progress, and there's readings that I think you ought to have, then I will forward those to you. And those are entirely optional. I'm not needing to assign homework. You may want to look at them after, just for next week, you may want to look at the beginning notes of the last course, because he is going to talk about the canon of the Hebrew Bible. So you might want to pull that up again and see, what books are where, if you remember that table that was in the notes. So,
Right.
so without further ado, anymore. We will join. Share the sound. It's the one. Oh, I better mute everybody. There. You'll be amazed at the sense of power that gives somebody. So hit the share. Actually, I want to. There.
So, welcome everyone to Culture and Belief 23, and a very special welcome to you fresh persons in our midst for whom this might be your first ever class at Harvard. Okay, let's talk about the syllabus and the books and so on. So as you know, the course is about the Hebrew Bible. So the Bible I'd like you to use is this one, the Jewish Study Bible, which is available for purchase at the bookstore. However, as indicated on the syllabus, you don't have to purchase it if you don't want to. As a Harvard student, you have access to the online version of this, which I refer in the syllabus. And not all of you may necessarily want to have a Bible, a hard copy Bible. And if you don't, it's much more convenient to look at an old-fashioned book, a low-tech book. It's much more convenient and much easier. But if you want to save 25 or 30 bucks or whatever it is, then you don't have to buy this at all. Now, why am I using the Jewish Study Bible? Is it because I'm Jewish? Is that why? Is it because I'm trying to convert you to Judaism? Is it because I have some nefarious agenda? No, I do not believe so. You will tell me otherwise, perhaps. Right, but I do not believe so. Right? I'm using the Jewish Study Bible because, as we'll discuss more fully on Friday, the Jewish Bible is shorter than the Christian Bible. Right? The Christian Bible has a lot more books in it. Right? The Christian Bible has these 24 books, which is how Jews count. I'll come back to that on Friday. These 24 books plus 27 additional books, right, in what the Christians call the New Testament. So if you have the same 2,000 pages, but you have 24 plus 27, or you have only 24, you have a lot more room for annotations, essays, notes, and other such infrastructure in a Bible such as this. So simply, these are the books of the Bible we're talking about. They're all here. They're very lovely notes, annotations on the page, lovely introductions, very nice essays. We'll be looking at a couple of them during the course of the term. So it's simply, pedagogically speaking, a useful tool. In addition, I know most of the contributors. Right, so that's why we're using this Bible. Okay? If you have another Bible around the house, you stole a Gideon's Bible from a motel, some missionary gave you the King James Bible, right, someday, right, can you use that instead? Answer, well, I'd rather you do that than not do the readings at all, right, to be sure. But having said that, the Bible is a very difficult book. It is a very elusive book, right? You need help to understand it. You can read it, sure, but to understand it, you need help. Help is provided in this Bible by the form of annotations, which are very useful and very helpful to the reader. If you have a bare naked Bible, like a Gideon Bible from a motel, right, all you have is a bare naked text. And I would respectfully submit you will not understand it, both because it's King James English from the 17th century, A, lovely indeed, but like Shakespeare, completely incomprehensible, right? And B, the absence of annotation means the text is inaccessible. Therefore, I strongly recommend and encourage you to get access to this, either do the online, or say, let's go to the bookstore. You can buy a used one of these for not terribly much money. And you know what? It's not a bad thing to have around the house, a Bible. Another book we'll be using, for those of you who are serious students of Jewish and Christian antiquity, will want to buy this Justin Martyr Dialogue with Trypho. But again, this is available online, and if you're not at all serious about these matters because you're majoring in economics anyway, then you can do this online. But if you're a serious student, you want to impress the professor, you will buy one of these, which is also available for sale at the bookstore. And that's it. There are all the other readings, there are a lot of other readings. I make an effort to find things that are online. Some of them are in the gray copyright zone, so the page is open only to Harvard students, right? But as far as I know, I'm not violating any copyright laws, as far as I know, and all the readings are available online, either on the page or through links provided on the syllabus. So as far as that goes, there's only a modest capital investment required for this course beyond coming to Harvard College and living here already, bankrupting your parents' assets. Let me talk now a little about the Hebrew Bible, the importance of the course, and then who you are in this course, who or for whom is this course intended. So the course is about the Hebrew Bible. Now I would respectfully submit that there is no such thing as Western civilization without the Hebrew Bible. This is what I meant earlier when I said I passionately believe in the importance of the subject. right? The Hebrew Bible is one of, I'm not going to claim it's the only, that's, let's be serious, right? But it is one of the key foundational documents of Western civilization, for good or ill. Consequently, some understanding of the document, and no less important, how that document has been interpreted, right, is essential for any person, any literate, educated person in the Western world. Now, this course then deals with two separate but intersecting questions. One question is the Hebrew Bible itself. What does the Hebrew Bible say? What are its stories? What are its messages? What are its themes? Various political passages, its motifs, its rhetoric, and the like. Set of issues number one. Set of issues number two is how do Jews and Christians read, interpret, understand the Bible? What messages did they extract from the Bible? What truths did they claim to take out of the Bible? Now, these questions are not exactly the same. One is the Bible is a book. We can talk about what it means, what it doesn't mean, etc. The other is a set of questions about how the Bible is received, how the Bible is understood, how the Bible is read. So we're doing both of these in this course, but the emphasis of this course is on the latter, not the former. That is to say, this course we will be talking about the Hebrew Bible itself, Hebrew Bible per se. For example, Friday is what we'll be doing, and we're doing that from time to time along the way. But this course is not an intro to the Hebrew Bible. If that's really what you want, then you may want to take the other Gen Ed class that I teach on alternate years with this one, which is an introduction to the Hebrew Bible, where we basically spend lots of time reading the Hebrew Bible, right? Then reading modern scholarly studies of the Hebrew Bible, its historical background, where it comes from, who wrote it and when, and how it was composed, and who assembled it and why, and for whom does it speak, and et cetera, et cetera. We're not doing that in this course. In this course, we will spend a little quickie time surveying some of those things, but as for the rest, I'm simply going to read the Bible the way Jews and Christians read it. And the Jews and Christians about whom we are speaking in this course did not take my course on Introduction to the Hebrew Bible. They did not know all the things that we know about how the Hebrew Bible came to be assembled and came to be written and what place it had in society. No, they didn't know that. They just read the book and thought it came from God and told them what to do. So that's what we're going to worry about in this course. We're going to try to read the Bible, excerpts therefrom, and try to understand how Jews and Christians interpreted the Bible. Because Jews and Christians interpreting the Bible means fundamentally Judaism and Christianity. There's another way of saying Western civilization. So, this course then is about biblical interpretation. It's about rival truth claims. Jews claim to find these truths, Christians claim to find these truths. Except these truths don't agree. They both claim to go back to the same foundational document, the Hebrew Bible, but they wind up in different places. That's the phenomenon that this course is focusing on. Jews and Christians each read the Bible, each claim to find within the Bible the source of their truth claims, but those truth claims vary. They disagree. They contradict. And yet, they're both based on the same book. Now, those who are logicians should say, well, something is wrong here. Because if A is right, then B can't be right. And if B is right, then A can't be right. Yes, for us in our politically correct culture, this is a problem. Because we want everybody to be right. But for them, for pre-modern Jews and pre-modern Christians, they were very happy to say, yes, I, Christian, I read the Bible correctly, and you Jews have it all wrong. You Jews don't know what you're doing. You think you understand the Bible, but you don't. And I'll explain to you why you Jews are misreading your own scriptures. And the Jews will say exactly the same thing back to the Christians. And they say, well, you think you're understanding Scripture, but clearly your interpretation is impossible. And I'll give you 32 reasons why it's wrong. And the Christians will say in reply, no, 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 you got it wrong. Anyway, that's what this course is about, this delightful exchange of opinions, right, between Jews and Christians, mostly in antiquity, but occasionally we'll look at modern times, and occasionally also medieval and or modern times, in which we have Jews and Christians arguing about the truth claims of Scripture. In other words, Judaism and Christianity. In other words, Judaism says Christianity is false. Christianity says Judaism is false. We don't talk that way anymore. We are too politically correct, right? We are afraid of saying anything that somebody else might find the least bit insulting, off-putting, upsetting. So as a result, we're very carefully to tiptoe around all these minefields. But we'll be reading some classical texts where they're not embarrassed to say this. Christianity is false because. Judaism is false because. Well, that's what we'll be seeing in this course. In this course, then, I'm not focusing on history. I'm not focusing on the history of Judaism, the history of Christianity, the history of Jews, the history of Christians. That's not what this course is about. It's not a narrative in that sense. Right. So this course is not a course on history. I'm not doing a narrative history about history of Judaism, or history of Christianity, or history of Jews. That would be another course, different course. I'm interested here in truth claims. What do Jews claim to be true? What do Christians claim to be true? So I hope that I made up the course in such a way so that if this material is new to you, you'll nonetheless be able to follow it and understand it. Now, if you have gone to Sunday school or Hebrew school or Bible school or some such, will that be an advantage to you? Of course it will be. I can't pretend that it won't be. Of course it'll be an advantage because you'll understand right away things that other people have to look up. I understand that. And there may well, I assume there are in this room, some of you who have in fact gone to Hebrew school, Sunday school, Bible school, or whatever. And that's great. On the same token, I am assuming that for many of you, this is all new. Namely, you've heard about the Bible, but if you've gone to your standard generic middle class, upper middle class suburban high school, which I assume where most of you are from, then of course you didn't do Bible. Because we don't do Bible in America because we're afraid to touch it in public schools. Because whatever they're going to do is going to be wrong or offend somebody, so you solve it by not doing it. And therefore your knowledge of Bible and Judaism and Christianity also is reduced to that which is filtered down into common culture, which is another way of saying not much. So here's a chance to fill in that lacuna, right? Here's a chance to learn something about these things. Who are we in this class? All right, first person plural. Who are the we of this class? Is it we Jews? Is it we Christians? Is it we monotheists? Or in the Islamic formulation, we who believe in the unity of God, we the unifiers of God? The answer to all the above so far, of all the choices I've given you so far, the answer is no. It's not we Jews, it's not we Christians, it's not we who believe in God, it's not we any of those things. No, the we of this class, the community of this class, is we who are trying to understand how the Bible functions as a source of truth in Judaism and Christianity. We, in fact, may personally believe that all this stuff is bunkum. This whole thing is so stupid, you don't understand for a minute if anybody could take it seriously. That's fine. That's your opinion. Fine. That does not excuse you, however, from the historical task in front of us, which is to understand what are the truth claims of Judaism and Christianity, and how Jews and Christians, who are also not stupid, right, found those claims in Scripture, and the process by which truth is extracted from a very difficult, very resistant text. That's the we of this class. We are trying to understand that process, trying to understand how rival truth claims can derive from the same common source. That's the we of this class. Now, I freely confess, and as this little beanie on my head attests, I freely confess that I, Shia Cohen, right, have some kind of existential stake in this debate. I do not pretend otherwise. I am not feigning here complete objective neutrality as if I can preside from some Mount Parnassus stake position where I can look down benevolently upon all that which takes place before me. No, no, no. That's also bunkum. If I were trying to claim that to you, you would know immediately that I'm lying. So I'm saying it up front. I, Shia Cohen, am a Jew. I, Shia Cohen, am an affirming Jew. I affirm my Judaism. Right? My wife and I work very hard to have a Jewish home and a Jewish family. At the same token, I also am aware of what I just said a minute ago. Our class here, this class is not about selling Judaism. This class is about understanding Judaism. This class is not about selling Christianity. This class is about understanding Christianity. And I will do my good faith best effort to be completely fair and neutral. That is to say, my job is to help you understand Judaism and its truth claims, and understand Christianity and its truth claims. Which of those truth claims are true is not my job. For all I know, they're all false. Or they're both true. I don't know. That's where I get off the train, right? That's not our job here in this class. Now, if at some point you think that I am being unfair, I'm giving Judaism a hard time or Christianity a hard time, then your antidote to that is the following. You raise your hand and tell me, but, Professor, my minister in church told me X. Or in yeshiva, they taught me Y. Or I remember reading somewhere that Maimonides says X. Or Aquinas says Y. Or I read that the Baptists believe, well, I'm a Baptist and. That's fine. I don't know if we'll have time to discuss all those things in class itself, especially if there are a lot of them, but this is the kind of thing we readily can discuss in section. We can certainly discuss them privately, and from time to time we can discuss them in class too. So how can I be sure that I'm not, quote unquote, selling Judaism and bad-mouthing Christianity? I can be sure that because I listen to what I'm saying. I have ears as well as a mouth. So I hear what I'm saying. And second of all, you will keep me honest. And third of all, I'm trying very hard to be fair. Now every year I get usually a little critique in this, every time I teach this course, I've had a critique of some student accuses me of being biased against Christianity. And I gotta tell you, that really hurts, when I'm trying so hard to be fair and neutral. But I will say this, I am anti-Christian, that is true, if you also allow me to say in equal measure at the same moment, I'm also anti-Jewish. Meaning, what I'm wedded to in this course is a proper historical understanding of the phenomena of Judaism and Christianity alike. And if you believe that Moses came down from Mount Sinai and delivered Judaism whole and complete to his followers, and that Judaism has endured from that day to this, perfect and unblemished, if you believe that, I am happy for you. But that's not the position I'm taking in this course, because that position in this course is a theological one, not a historical one. Similarly, if you believe that Jesus Christ came into the world, I assume you would believe also from a virgin mother, right, who brought forth into the world Christianity whole and complete, and that Christianity has endured from that day to this, whole, perfect, and unblemished. If you believe that, then once again, I am happy for you. I'm happy for you in your faith, but you will forgive me if that's not my perspective in this course, because once again, that is not a historical claim, that's a theological claim. And for me, the historian, Judaism develops from X to Y to Z, just as Christianity develops from X to Y to Z, and these developments take place in historical time, subject to historical forces and historical circumstances, some of which we understand, some of which we don't fully understand because of the documentation, but which we nonetheless try our best to understand. That is what we'll be doing in this course. And if then you object, well, Professor, why are you wearing a little beanie on your head then? Answer, because where I was brought up, I'll give you my brief autobiography in a minute. Where I was brought up, when we study sacred texts, we cover our heads. And I still have that atavistic impulse, which I cannot fully shed. So when I study sacred texts, Bible, for example, I cover my head. When I study rabbinic texts and so on, I cover my head. It's a more complicated answer too, but that's the short answer. That's why. And if it reminds you from time to time, yeah, the professor is Jewish, and maybe that's not always completely irrelevant to what he is saying, well, all right, that's okay too. Because I can't be other than what I am. Here are questions on this. We're just swimming here through some very deep waters. So, who are you, Professor? So I'll tell you very briefly. I am Shia Cohen, Jew. Right? No use hiding it, no use pretending. In spite of this Ivy League veneer, which I have, the veneer wear is very thin. I understand that. And the little, the yeshiva boy from Queens, nonetheless comes out very quickly. So that's why I don't even try to hide it, because what's the point? Right. So I was brought up in an Orthodox home in Queens, in New York City. I went to Jewish parochial schools, Jewish denominational schools my entire life, from grade K all the way through grade 16, which is another way of saying I went to Yeshiva College, so I have a BA from Yeshiva College. So the first time I had a non-Jew as a classmate, I was in graduate school. So you would say that I had a kind of sheltered parochial upbringing, which has its pluses and minuses, as we all know. It has very strong pluses, for which I'm ever grateful to my parents. At the same token, of course, there is a minus, which is it's parochial, narrow, etc. I think I managed to overcome that, or to overcome some of this narrowness by dint of my education and reading since then. And but again, I bring with my background with me before you, and I can't pretend to be other than what I am, which is an old yeshiva boy. So after that, I got a PhD from Morton Smith and Columbia University. Morton Smith was a well-known hater of all organized religions, especially Christianity, but Judaism too. But insofar as saying nice things about Judaism would needle his Christians, so therefore he liked Jews, because it's a way of needling Christians, who for him were a bigger target than Jews. So he was a complicated kind of guy, Morton Smith. But from him I learned the hermeneutics of suspicion, which means to say whenever I read any text, and whenever you read any text, the first question you always ask is, why does this SOB expect me to believe these lies? That's what I mean by the hermeneutics of suspicion, right? That you assume the author is trying to pull one over on you. So why does this SOB want me to believe these lies, right? That's the essence of hermeneutics. That's what I learned from Morton Smith, which was very different from what we learned in yeshiva, right? Trust me, it was a different kind of experience. But from there is where I learned my, ecumenically minded ability to read all classical texts and simply ask, what are they trying to say? I don't have to believe them, I don't have to believe in them, but I do have to try to understand them. That's what I learned from Morton Smith. But at the same time, I continued my Jewish education and got a rabbinical degree. So I have a rabbinical degree on the side in my pocket. And then from there, okay, the rest doesn't really matter. So you can Google me and you'll find out all about me if you want. Most important thing is I have a wife and 4 children. That's the most important thing. Okay, that's a little bit of brief autobiography about me. Yes, sir.
How much of the Bible itself will we actually be reading?
Good question. In this course, we'll be reading excerpts here and there from the Hebrew Bible. we'll really be reading only those passages that later Jews and Christians make much of in their arguments and debates with each other. So we're reading a chapter here, a verse here, a paragraph here, a paragraph there, that sort of thing. We'll not be reading sustained long sections of the scriptures because this course is not an intro to Hebrew Bible. That we do in the other course. So here you need the Bible handy because you need to look at those passages and understand these are the ones that are contested. These are the passages which Jews and Christians dispute. All right, those are the ones we'll be looking at. Yes, sir.
Why do you have to cover your head when studying the Bible? Or why were you?
Excellent. The complicated reason is as follows. One covers one head in Jewish tradition to show respect. Right. So in Western tradition, like the good old days when men used to wear hats, remember that? Just before your time. Men used to wear hats. So when a lady walks into the elevator, you take off your hat. Right? We say the Pledge of Allegiance, right? You take off your hat. Right? So we take off hats to show respect. You go into a church, they ask you to take off your hat. Right? Whereas in the Jewish tradition, it's the opposite. Right? Which is typically also the Near East, right? You cover your head. Right? Covering your head is a sign of modesty and respect. So the Jewish tradition is then to cover the head. Now it turns out it's not actually for studying the text, it's actually for reciting the name of God. And okay, in moments where you might recite the name of God, the tradition is that you would cover your head. This has a long, complicated story. It did not become a normative custom until the High Middle Ages, until around the 14th century. Right? Before that, it was only a few pietists who had this custom. But in the 14th century, it became a common custom among Jews to cover one's head as a sign of respect, especially when praying, reciting the name of God, and so on. So that's where we come from. Okay? Yes, sir.
What does the second book there talk about?
This thing?
Yeah.
The dialogue, yeah, okay. So Justin Martyr, dialogue with Trypho. Right. So we'll introduce him in a couple of weeks. So Justin Martyr was a Christian of the 2nd century CE. 2nd century CE, Common Era, AD, if you'd like. I'll talk about that on Friday. And Justin Martyr wrote a book, Dialogue with Trypho the Jew, in which he, Justin, the Christian, right, is trying to convince Trypho, the Jew, that he, Justin, and Christianity read the Bible correctly, and that Trypho misunderstands the Bible. Right. So his argument is that you Jews have the scriptures, but you don't understand your own scriptures. That's the theme of this book. Unfortunately, one wishes this were a little better edited and a little tighter and a little bit more exciting. This actually is deadly dull and kind of wandering and long. So we'll be reading excerpts from it. I can't just give you the whole book to read straight because you'll yell at me. You'll protest. Right. So, but the theme of the book is smack dead on for this course, and excerpts are extraordinarily interesting, which Trypho, the Jew, says, Justin, what about this? But Justin, of course, always has a comeback. May I remind you who wrote the book? It's Justin Martyr, so we understand who's going to win, and we sort of know that in advance, right? Having said that, it's still it's an argument between a Jew and a Christian written by a Jew about the Bible, in which each side claims to read the Bible correctly. Okay? That's why we'll be looking at excerpts from this book. Other questions?
How historically accurate do we consider both the Bible and the New Testament to be, and do we consider either or both of them to be inspired by God?
Well, what do you mean by we, Kim Wasabi, is the, right. Do we consider the Bible? We in this class have no opinion on these subjects. We in this class do not know and do not care if the Bible is historically accurate or true. We do not know, we do not care in this class because it's immaterial to us. Our task is the same, whether the Bible is written by God or not. Indeed, whether both parts of the Bible are written by God or only one part of the Bible, and if so, what does that mean, written by God, which is not a small and simple question either. On all those points, we in this class have no stated position because we in this class have a task to do, and our job is to understand the texts. And that task is the same whether there is a God, there is no God, God wrote these books, God didn't write these books, Christianity is true, Christianity is false. Still on a task. What does the text mean? Why do they argue the way they did? What do they mean? What's their point? And that's our job. Okay, everyone. Nice seeing you all. Hope to see you back on Friday. So Friday.
Okay. Oops. There we go. So let's see, I'll try to. There. So is there any questions? Did I lose anybody? Doesn't look like it. So I guess one of the distinctions I guess I wanted to make is that he talks about truth claims. And what we're talking about there are the assertions that we basically faith statements about the Bible. So, or about what's in the Bible. And so that's what we're looking at. We're looking at rival truth claims, and they're the base. Now, whether or not what you believe is true is up to you, but there's not going to be an argument saying this is true and this isn't. But there are the Christianity and modern Judaism have different, read the Hebrew Bible in a certain way, and then they come up with different truth claims. And so that's really what the course will be looking at.
Mitch, are these truth statements all very historical? I mean, Justin Martyr and a lot of the other writings are a couple of centuries after Christ. Is that, do you know it, because things that were said in 300 CE or God forbid during World War II about Christianity and Jewishness, Judaism are far different.
So I get, do you mean historical? Do you mean like, are they all ancient truth claims, or are we going to be looking at more modern truth claims?
Yeah, I guess that's my question.
Oh, okay. Most of the ones we'll be looking at are going to be of the more of antiquity. He will take some down to the present period. For instance, he will talk about the notion of, he does get into a little bit on supersessionism, which is the belief that Christianity has taken the place of Judaism. He touches on that a little. He will talk about there is the belief that, he touches on the notion that that some people have, that the Jews are guilty of deicide, meaning that they killed Christ. So he will touch on that, but he doesn't really take it too far into the contemporary period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's plenty of material in the first 300 years.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go.
Right. And I think some of the truth claims that have evolved, but I think what the purpose of the course is we're looking at the roots of some of the ones that we still have, I guess is the best way to put it. And sadly, some of that stuff is still around.
Yeah. Don't want to get into modern anti-Semitism and that sort of thing, I
Well,
guess.
Yeah, but I think the purpose of this course, I think the important thing about this course is that we recognize the common heritage of Judaism and Christianity. As I always like to point out, Jesus was a Jew. And never claimed to be anything other than that. So I think this course is good for equipping, dealing if you run into those sorts of arguments, those sorts of claims.
Yeah, we've spent a fair amount of time talking about the commonalities, at least in
Yeah.
the last couple of classes, and now we're kind of going the other
Well,
way.
Well, it's he'll talk in a couple of weeks. There's going to be discussion about parting of the ways, and the whole issue of so you have two groups. I mean, Christianity wasn't Christianity at the beginning; it was a sect within Judaism.
Right.
So I mean, you had Pharisees, you had the Sadducees, and till the temple was destroyed, you had the priests. You had Essenes; they were the guys out in the desert, and so you had all sorts of different groups who were arguing this is the right way to be a Jew. After the destruction of the temple, the argument became a little more pointed with no temple-centered religion, then what does it mean to be a Jew? And I think some of what he's talking about is truth claims, and the different ideas are really how different answers came up, as far as in the next couple of lectures, he'll talk about the difference, basically the different thought systems, Judaism and Christianity, their focus is, one is focused on Torah, the other's focused on Christ. They're answering the question of, if you're an ancient Israelite and you don't have the temple, what's it mean to be a Jew? And it's on the darker aspect. Sometimes I compare it, you have a couple and all of a sudden they get divorced, and all of a sudden, there's a breakup and it gets really ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at the history of Protestantism.
Yeah.
When Luther first started, the last thing he wanted to do was break from Catholicism.
Right.
And then he started, how many Protestant groups are there now? You can't even count them.
No, and there's new ones all the time, and after him, he had the 30 Years' War.
Yeah.
So you're right. And you see the same sort of atomization, if you want to say, within Judaism. There are different groups within Judaism. You have Orthodox, you have Hasidic, you have people that think that Messiah is alive and living in Brooklyn somewhere.
The Reform.
Then you have the Reforms, and you have conservative, so you have all sorts of different. One point I should make, just to make clear, within Judaism, Messianic Jews are not considered Jews. So,
There's probably some sects of Christians that so far are away from what mainline Christianity would be hard pressed to actually be called Christians.
well,
So I think they're extremists on both sides.
yeah. And then, there are some people who don't think Unitarians are Christians. They're not Trinitarian.
I always remember the times fighting
So somebody is
was
got
my
the radio
student.
on.
here, United
Oh.
Family. Well,
So,
here.
So tonight was kind of short, but if there's any questions, I did look ahead. The notes actually have that fancy little table. So when he talks about the structure of the Hebrew Bible, you'll find that in there. So it's available to you. Some of this, and I recognize probably review, but that doesn't hurt. Because I don't know how much you can remember from last year when we talked about this stuff. So, and by the way, we are not meeting
Call you
next
back.
week
I'll call you back.
on Halloween because I have another commitment at work. So we will convene again the week after.
I have only one comment.
Yeah.
His shirt. I really
Oh.
liked his shirt, but it was quite distracting.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Yep.
You're not alone in that thought there, Carol. I've watched this several times, and I've often thought I should write to him about his shirts. I presume by now it's gone. It's probably gone. It's been turned into rags. So, okay. So I wish you a happy Halloween. Watch out for the hobgoblins.
Okay,
We're not
Take
going to go
care.
again until just before Election Day. What is that, the 7th?
yeah.
The next
whatever.
class?
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be the 7th.
Yeah, stay safe. Okay, good night.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
Night.